I'm standing behind the counter at a bookstore in Prague when this guy walks in. Mid-30s, Yankees cap, rolling suitcase. He comes straight to me and says, "Do you have books in English?" I point to the entire second floor. You know, the one with the giant sign that says English books. He looks up, nods, then asks, "But like, American English or British English?" I blink. Mostly both?" He shakes his head. "Nah, I need American. The British spell things weird." "Sir, it's Harry Potter. The story doesn't change." That same week, I'm helping this older woman find a historical fiction section. She picks up a book, reads the back, and says, "Wait, this is about World War II in Europe?" I confirm. She squints at me. "But America won that war. Why isn't this about America?" I explain it's about Czech resistance fighters. She puts it back. "Doesn't sound right," she mutters. Then there's the college student who asked if our books were metric or imperial. I still don't know what she meant. A businessman wanted to know if we accepted real money while holding a €50 note. I asked what he meant by real. "Dollars," he said. In the middle of Prague, the most tourist-heavy city in Central Europe, where every shop has currency exchange signs. But that was just the beginning. Because what I've learned working in 5 different countries is this: Americans abroad aren't stupid. They're just operating on a completely different manual. This channel exists for people who notice those hidden manuals, the unspoken rules of how the world really works. If that's your kind of curiosity, subscribe now so you don't miss the next cultural decoding. One that doesn't match the rest of the world's instructions. And when those manuals clash, that's when things get interesting. The pharmacy incident in Bangkok still makes me laugh. I'm working the counter on a Tuesday afternoon when this American woman rushes in. She's maybe 60, wearing a sun visor, looking panicked. "I need ibuprofen," she says, pronouncing each syllable carefully, like I might not understand. I grab the box from behind me. She stares at it. "This can't be right. It says 400 milligrams. I need 400 ounces." I pause. "Ounces of ibuprofen would kill you, ma'am." No, she insists. At home, I take the 400 size. It takes me 10 minutes to explain that 400 milligrams is the standard dose. She keeps asking if I'm sure, if maybe Thai medicine is different, if the box is mislabeled. Finally, she buys it. But she makes me write down the conversion on a piece of paper. Just in case, I watch her leave and wonder how she thinks medicine works. Does she imagine we're all just guessing? Over in Amsterdam, my cousin works at a bike rental shop. He tells me about this couple, early 40s, who rented bikes for a day. They come back after 20 minutes. The wife is near tears. "These bikes are broken," she says. "They don't have gears." My cousin looks at the bikes. They're single-speed city bikes, standard Dutch bikes that half the country rides. "They're meant to be like this," he explains. The husband cuts him off. "In America, bikes have gears. Multiple gears. These are defective." My cousin tries to explain that Amsterdam is flat. Nobody needs gears. The husband insists on a refund because the bikes are not up to American safety standards. They leave on foot, wheeling their suitcases over cobblestones instead of riding perfectly functional bikes. I used to work at a hotel in Buenos Aires. Front desk, night shift. Around 11 p.m., this young guy comes down. Early 20s, study abroad type. "Hey, so, weird question," he starts. "Why is tomorrow today on my phone?" I ask him to repeat that. He shows me his phone. "See? It says October 15th, but it's still October 14th here." I explain time zones. He nods slowly. Right, but when does it actually change? Like, does Argentina change at midnight, or does it wait for America to catch up? The concept that time moves forward independently in different places genuinely confuses him. He asks if that means things in Argentina happen before America sees them. I tell him that's not how time works. He tips me anyway, probably feeling bad for making me explain the rotation of the Earth at 11 p.m. In Reykjavik, my friend works at a gas station. An American pulls up in a rental car, comes inside and says, "Your pump is broken. It won't take my card." My friend goes out to check. "The pump is fine." "Did you enter your PIN?" she asks. The guy looks confused. "PIN? No, you just swipe in America." She explains that chip and PIN is standard in Iceland. He argues that his bank never gave him a PIN. She suggests he call his bank. He says, "Can't you just make it work? I'm American. Like that's a magic password." Like being American means technology should bend to accommodate him. He ends up paying cash after complaining for 15 minutes about how backward chip and PIN is. My friend tells me this happens 3 times a week. Most channels would stop at the punchline. I track patterns like this across cultures. That's why subscribers here aren't just watching stories. They're decoding human behavior in real time. I drove a taxi in Dublin for 2 years. You learn patience fast. This American businessman gets in near Temple Bar. Suit, briefcase, confident. "Take me to the airport, fastest route," he says. I start driving. He immediately criticizes my route. "Why aren't you taking the highway?" I explain the M50 has tolls and traffic at this hour. He interrupts. "I'll pay the tolls. Just get me there fast." I merge onto the motorway. 5 minutes later, we're crawling. He huffs. This is exactly what I didn't want. I don't say anything. Then he notices something. "Why is everyone driving so slow? Speed limit is 120. That's like 75 miles per hour. People should be flying." I tell him 120 means 120 kilometers per hour. He goes quiet, does the math in his head. "That's only like 75 miles per hour, he repeats. I confirm. He sits back. "That's so slow. How does anyone get anywhere?" "Sir, we get places fine. We've been doing it for decades. We just do it at 120 kilometers per hour. In Copenhagen, I worked at a swimming pool. Public pool, very popular. An American family shows up. Parents, 2 kids. They walk right in with their shoes on, past the locker rooms, onto the pool deck. With shoes, I stop them. "Shoes off, please." The dad looks at me like I'm joking. "It's a pool. Everyone wears shoes at pools." I point to the sign. The rule. Everyone else walking around barefoot. He argues that it's unsanitary, that in America you wear flip-flops. That going barefoot spreads disease. I explain that in Denmark, you shower before swimming and go barefoot in pool areas. It's the opposite. Shoes spread dirt. He refuses to believe this. His wife suggests they just follow the rules. He calls over a manager. The manager repeats what I said. The dad finally takes off his shoes, but he mutters about it the entire time. His kids, meanwhile, strip down to their swimsuits in the middle of the changing room instead of using stalls. That's another rule they didn't read. At the border between Jordan and Israel, I worked immigration for 6 months. You see everything. This American woman approaches my station. She's maybe 55, carrying a huge backpack. I ask for her passport. She hands me a driver's license. I say, "Passport, please." She looks confused. This is government-issued ID. It works everywhere in America. I explain that international travel requires a passport. She insists her license should be fine. It has my photo. It's from the DMV. What's the difference? I spend 5 minutes explaining passports versus domestic ID. She finally pulls out her passport from a different bag. Then she asks, "Do I need a visa?" I ask where she's going. She says Israel, then back to Jordan, then maybe Egypt. I tell her the visa requirements. She looks overwhelmed. In America, you just drive between states. Yes, ma'am. Because they're states. These are countries, different governments, different laws. She almost misses her crossing time because she didn't realize countries have borders that work differently than state lines. Working at a restaurant in Barcelona changed how I see people. I'm a server at a small tapas place in Gracia. An American couple sits down. Late 30s, honeymoon vibe. They're excited. I bring menus. They order immediately. "We'll have the paella." I tell them paella takes 45 minutes. Fresh-made, traditional style. The husband laughs. 45 minutes? For rice? I nod. He looks at his wife. Let's just get something faster. They order patatas bravas and gambas al ajillo. The food comes in 12 minutes. They eat. It's good. Then the check comes. The wife looks at it, looks at me, and slides it back. You forgot the tip line. I point to the total. Tip is included if you'd like, but it's not required in Spain. She frowns. What do you mean not required? I explain that servers get full wages here. Tipping isn't part of the culture like in America. The husband interrupts. So you get paid nothing and just hope people tip? No, I explain. I get paid a salary, a real wage. The wife doesn't believe me. She writes tip on the receipt and underlines it. I thank them but explain again. They leave cash anyway, extra 10 euros. The husband says, for good service, like he's rescuing me from poverty. I'm making 100 to 400 euros a month, which isn't great, but it's stable. I don't need rescue. I need them to understand that different countries structure labor differently. In Osaka, I worked at a capsule hotel. Front desk, weekend shifts, an American backpacker checks in. Early 20s, first time in Japan. I explain the rules. Quiet hours, no shoes inside, shared bathrooms. He nods along. 2 hours later, another guest complains. The American is wearing shoes in the sleeping area. I find him, politely ask him to remove them. He says, oh, I thought that was just like a cultural thing, not a rule. I explain it's both. He takes them off but seems annoyed. The next morning, he comes to check out. He's upset. The walls are so thin. I could hear everything. I tell him it's a capsule hotel. Budget accommodation. He knew this when he booked. He argues that for 3,000 yen, he expected privacy. I remind him that's about $27. He booked the cheapest option in one of the most expensive cities on Earth. What did he expect? A suite? He leaves a bad review online. Says Japanese hotels are scams. Meanwhile, he got exactly what he paid for. At a museum in Marrakesh, I'm a tour guide for English-speaking visitors. An American retiree joins my group. He's 70, traveled a lot, seems knowledgeable. We're in the Islamic art section. I'm explaining the history of Andalusian influence. He raises his hand. Why isn't there anything about America here? I pause. This is a Moroccan museum about Moroccan history. He nods. But America helped Morocco, right? In the wars? I explained that American involvement in North Africa was brief and mostly military. This museum focuses on art and culture spanning 1,000 years. He seems disappointed. Later, in the gift shop, he asks if they have anything in regular sizes. I ask what he means. These shirts are all in centimeters. I explain that's how clothing sizes work in most of the world. He buys a keychain instead. Before leaving, he tells me the tour was good but too foreign. I don't know how to respond. It's a tour of Morocco in Morocco. What did he expect? My best story is from a grocery store in Helsinki, where I worked during university. An American woman comes in, pushing a cart. She's confused by everything. The currency, the language, the products. She stops me and asks, "Where's the regular milk?" I point to the dairy section. "That's all regular milk." She shakes her head. "No, I mean normal milk. This is all in liters." I tell her that's how we measure liquid. She picks up a carton. "How do I know how much this is in gallons?" I do the math for her. 1 liter is about a quarter gallon. She looks at the carton again, looks at me, and says, "Why would you do that? Not why do we use liters, but why would we deliberately make it confusing for her?" Like Finland adopted the metric system just to inconvenience American tourists. She buys the milk, but checks the receipt 3 times to make sure she wasn't overcharged. I watch her leave and think about perspective. How, in her mind, she's the normal one, and we're all doing it wrong. The wildest encounter I ever had was at a train station in Prague. I'm working information desk on a Saturday. An American guy approaches. 30s, tech startup vibe, backpack covered in travel stickers. He asks, "Which train goes to Germany?" I pull up the schedule. "Where in Germany?" He shrugs. "Just Germany. Any city." I explain that Germany is large. Many cities, different trains. He gets impatient. Look, in America, you just get on a train, and it goes where you need. Why is this complicated? I take a breath. Sir, Germany has thousands of towns. I need a destination, he thinks. Okay, what's the capital? I tell him Berlin. He nods. That one. I book his ticket. He asks, how long? I tell him 4 hours. He laughs. 4 hours? Germany is right there. He points vaguely north. I explain distance, border crossings, stops. He doesn't believe me. He thinks I'm scamming him. He pulls out his phone, checks Google Maps, and his face changes. Oh, wow, okay. He pays for the ticket. Before he leaves, he asks one more question. Do they speak English in Germany? I tell him some do, especially in cities, but German is the primary language. He looks worried. What if I need help? I suggest learning basic phrases or using a translation app. He nods slowly, processing this. Then he says, man, Europe is hard. I smile. It's different, not hard, just different. He leaves, rolling his suitcase toward the platform, and I wonder if he'll figure it out. These stories don't make me angry. They make me curious. What creates this gap between expectation and reality? Why do some people travel and assume the world runs on their home rules? Maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe it's just the shock of realizing that your normal isn't everyone's normal, that inches aren't universal, that tipping isn't mandatory everywhere, that your driver's license doesn't open international borders. I've learned that most Americans abroad aren't trying to be difficult. They're just surprised. Surprised that a bike doesn't need gears. Surprised that shoes come off indoors. Surprised that medicine comes in milligrams, not ounces. And in those moments of surprise, something interesting happens. Either they adapt or they dig in. Either they learn or they complain. The ones who adapt, they're the ones who come back with better stories. And these stories, they never stop coming. Every shift brings someone new. Someone convinced their way is the only way. Someone baffled by a different system. Someone who thought the world would adjust to them, not the other way around. I'll be here, watching it unfold, one confused tourist at a time.